And that is a good time to bring in, nothing to do with apropos, but no doubt she might actually find a way up there because there will be a number of schools in her bailiwick that would be going to that particular regatta. Labour MP for Tyree, Ingrid Leary. Ingrid, are you going? You going to have a look?
Well, yes, I will put that on my list of things to do.
It's amazing. Have you ever been?
No, I haven't. Nope.
It is amazing. You'll see all your Queen's high schools, your King's high schools. There will be South Otago High School there. A number of schools in your area will be.
I'm sorry, Michael. Were you talking about kapahaka? Or were you talking about
no, Māori Cup? The Māori Cup.
Oh, sorry. Yes. No, I have, and I'm sorry. You just dropped out, and the phone is dropping out a little. So
okay,
if it happens
sure.
again, I'll let you know.
No, the Māori Cup. It's absolutely amazing, a spectacle. So you've been to see one, have you?
Yes.
I guess you would have seen it in the North Island, would you, when you were up there? You would have seen it at Karapiro.
I did go down to Lake Karapiro, probably 10 years ago, and it was very exciting. And
watching those eights, girls and boys, on that sort of final day is just magic, really. Absolute magic.
And the crowd getting into it, that's what I noticed. And
absolutely.
It could have even been longer ago than that, because I remember it was one of the first ones that Māori Television filmed, and from memory I think I was there with a camera crew, and really amazed at the kind of community spirit and the yelling and cheering. That was the thing that I remember the most about it, actually.
No, it is fantastic, and the kids have such a great time. Such a wonderful, wonderful sport too. Listen, Ingrid, this time last week you weren't telling me where you were going for your caucus.
Yes.
And in the end, you end up getting pissed up at a bloody winery in Martinborough. What's that about?
Actually, I didn't know Brackenridge was a winery. I don't think they had much of a selection of wine there, to be honest. It was more like a kind of rustic country cottage convention centre with, lovely old houses around it. And we had a great retreat, actually. It was low-key, energising, intimate in terms of just, having a smaller group. And we came away feeling really positive.
What is your caucus numbers now? How many do you have in your caucus now?
34.
Yeah, it's a sort of a classroom, isn't it, really?
It is, and also when you get into opposition, which you would be aware of, Michael, that divide between the executive and the backbench sort of dissolves.
Yes.
Ironically, the third floor of Parliament, where the opposition goes, the offices it's just a better floor. The offices are nicer, they're closer together. The caucus room is bigger, and so all of that stuff is conducive to making much more of a kind of team, sense of team. And so for a lot of people, it was about getting to know each other as well, because we really didn't have that opportunity when you have a caucus of 65, which is how we started the last term, and we were very much in our class groups, and the executive were very busy doing their thing, and they were situated over in the beehive. So this the new environments and then the smaller numbers is, it's good for team building.
I'm glad you phrased that issue, because it's something that I think a lot of New Zealanders are not aware of and don't appreciate. But the moment that an opposition goes into government, it separates all those who are elected into government into two types of different people. Cabinet on one hand and the rest on the other. That's the first thing. It's not just a physical divide, but it's also almost a political and a philosophical divide too, because one group is making the decisions and the other group, is basically just the chair party. And then the second aspect is...
And you've got the poor people in the middle who are ministers outside of Cabinet who are not
and they piss you off, don't they? Because they block you, Ingrid, say, from getting to, see the Minister of Finance, Grant Robertson, or someone like that. You've got to go through somebody who hasn't been elected to go and see the person who's meant to be your colleague.
Yes and no. Actually, Grant was very available to all of us, which is probably the reason he has been such an important person in our caucus. And so I didn't find ministers out of Cabinet had that role. I just feel sorry for them, because often they're in that no man's land, not quite being there for the Cabinet collective, decision making, and yet they are also apart from the backbench because they have other duties, as do undersecretaries, and there's a much smaller group of them, so they kind of feel like they're a little bit more in purgatory, whereas the divide between the executive and then the backbench are, you've got two fairly big groups if you've got a large caucus.
So I'm assuming from what I've just heard you say that you're enjoying opposition and you'd quite like to spend as much time there as possible.
If it wasn't for watching the repeal and the vandalism and damage that is happening to New Zealand, that could be a tempting thought, but you have to keep your spirits up because it
Listen, we'll do our best. We'll do our best to keep you in opposition because we want you to be happy, Ingrid.
No, it is really soul destroying to see the repeal of things that we put so much work into, and which is the reason that we have all come into Parliament and taken on this crazy life and sacrifices to the family. Is to make, progressive change, and to see all of that just undone with such great haste and under urgency with no vision for the future is devastating. So being an optimist, I always look for the good bits of what's happening in life, and being part of the strong team that's focused on being a strong opposition is the good bit.
Okay, having said that, I think the first thing to do, I always work out that there's a AAA in my thing if I've done something wrong, and I've done lots of things wrong in my life, and the first thing is to accept you've done something wrong, the second is to apologise, and the third is to atone, and they're all an important part of sort of restoration. Have you accepted yet, and I'm not being nasty here, Ingrid, but that New Zealand decided it didn't want you at the last election? Was there an acceptance around the caucus that we actually got out of favour and out of step with the average Kiwi?
Absolutely there has been, and I think you've seen that in both the timing of the retreat, which wasn't done immediately in the new year, but was about giving, the dust of time to settle and people time to give the new government, the national government, a chance, rather than come in guns blazing and rebuilding, all systems go. That is reflected in the timing of our retreat. And I think that also, the fact that we are picking and choosing our battles is part of that philosophy as well. We can't just be opposition for opposition's sake. It's the things that we care very deeply about that we're choosing to focus on. And those are things around cost of living and around smoke-free legislation, the dismantling of the Māori Health Authority, the repeal of affordable waters, the RMA. There's quite a few of them, but they are dear to our hearts. The other one would be fair pay agreements. These are the things that people have spent many years campaigning on, and for some people it has been a single focus. So I've got some colleagues where they were all about fair pay agreements, or they were all about RMA reform, and they've watched that get dismantled. So there is an acceptance, and what we need to do now is regroup as a party, but also work out which things we would put back into place, when we are back in government, which are the ones that we think need to be in place, and which are the things where maybe the context will be different, or maybe the way they landed, often the communication could have been better. So
what I'm hearing, Ingrid, is, and I've heard from Chris Hipkins and you as well, and I'm just sort of going to push back a bit on this one, is the fact that you think there was a communication problem when really there was a policy problem. You can't communicate something that's not popular.
I disagree. I think some of it was around timing. If we got the affordable water reforms in earlier, they would have possibly bedded down more. We're seeing the conundrum that's left New Zealand in with, rates going up and no clear plan of how to solve New Zealand's three water problem. We are seeing that with the health reforms, the communication breakdown really was people expecting after a major reform like that to see results within the first few months, rather than realising that some of these programs will take a decade in order to get the outcomes. There has to be low-hanging fruit, of course, otherwise people are just taking a giant leap of faith. But to get the real systemic outcomes that the reforms promised would take a decade, and that wasn't.
Yeah, but no, listen, I think back to that one, the Naimahuta telling councils that they could bail out and they didn't need to go in, which was always a lie. I mean, that was a direct lie. Hard to live down that credibility yet.
I don't think it was a lie. I think that when that promise was made at the time it was made, it was genuine, and the context changed, and a new decision was made. So remember, people are always working with the context that they have in front of them. It's unfortunate when people have to reverse decisions, but we've seen that from this government around
but that was one of
it's already broken that promise.
But Ingrid, you've got half. Let's just take Three Waters as an example, because remember I asked you the question: acceptance, apology, atonement. When you've made a mistake, you said to me, "Oh yes, we have accepted," but there you are defending a Three Waters policy in which half of the councils in New Zealand got together to resist it. And they all used the word lie because they were being told something by government officials when there were cabinet papers going that clearly suggested the opposite.
What we have accepted is the election decision, and the voters are always right, and clearly they voted us out. I think governments get voted out, not voted in. What we have seen with Three Waters now is, in my view, councils being thrown under the bus by the current government, which is making them now have to sort the affordable water issue out on their own. They're going into double-digit rate hikes, and the government will turn and point the finger at them when really they should be helping them to take on what has been a problem that's taken decades in the making.
Yeah,
but those councils now, they need to wake up, and I think some of them are realising that they may have had issues about some of the local element of affordable water. They certainly had issues around the communication of it, but they are now having to face huge rates rises over the next decade, and they have a government that doesn't want to partner with them, that is instead saying, your problem, fix it.